But do I need
All right, live.
We live.
We is live in color. That's what we is. All right. So we're back again. We told you that we were bringing Representative Bobby DuBose. And you know, Sandra talking about her little Gator Nation all the time, child.
Go Gators. Go Gators.
That's right.
So Gator Nation's in the house, all right? We are excited to talk to you. We've had, 4 or 5 of your opponents on. You know, people call this the hot seat, but I don't think we hot. I think we just, you know, letting the people know, you know, we just asking questions. We want people to know who you are. So I'm back again, Nikki Grant, you, one of your co-hosts. What is it? I used to I went for office one time. I ran for once. Now I may not go back. It's too much. I don't know how you do it.
Listen, that Lori, what's her name? Lori, she needs an opponent.
Never say never. Never say
That's
never.
True. That's true. But I don't know how you do it, but it's a lot. And I wave my hat to you guys because it's a lot of work to run and to do your job at the same time. So I give you nothing but props. I am a mom of 5, so you know it's important that I know what's going on. This show was birthed out of wanting our people to be part of the political process and learning and to follow along. So it's important to us, and it's important that, you know, the candidates who did respond are here and talking. So I want to give them props for doing that. And so I'm gonna send it over to my co-host so she can go ahead and introduce herself so we can get in where we fit in with Mr.
Yes, all right. Good evening, y'all. Thanks for indulging us again and coming to talk to us. I am Sandra Sheffrer. I'm one of the co-hosts of Race and the Racist, and I'm also the president of the Democratic Women's Club of Greater Broward, but I'm not here in that capacity today. I'm here as one of the co-hosts of Race and the Racist. And one of the reasons why we do this is because we think it's very important for candidates to have an opportunity to have a chance to develop their full platform. Tell us what it, you know, so they can tell the people what it is that what they've done before, like how they was qualified for this position, what it is that they want to do, and then you can also get a feel for if they're really about service or if they're here about self-interest, right? So, and I think it's better to do that when you give them 45 minutes to an hour to just talk about it, and that's why we created this space. You know, we've seen some of the panels, and you know they got 2 minutes to answer some really loaded, multi-layered questions, and I'm not hating on that
60
setup.
seconds.
I'm just saying, 60 seconds, right? To, you know, to answer some extremely loaded questions that really needs more development. And so I was like, you know what? I'll make the time and give people a chance to come and just talk about it. And, you know, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll probably ask them near the end because we really want to, you know, give Representative DuBose an opportunity to tell us why he believes he's experienced, because it's like 17 mugs running for this seat. It's 17 people in this race.
Yeah, the 17 is included your Republicans and your NPAs. Child's way too many.
And it's 11 Democrats, right? You know, so it's a lot of people. So you need to know why. You know, it's gonna be a tough. I don't think the decision is that tough, but I'm not gonna get into all that. But I'm just saying, you know,
be honest, co-host. Be honest. It ain't that tough. We know who needs to be there.
It's important for people to know about these representatives because you do have to make a decision, right?
True.
And you know, and I did go on the record and say that, you know, don't waste your vote on number 11 or 10. You know, if y'all listening to the pollings or whatever, if they fall in by 10, 11, you know, 12, 13, don't do it. Don't do it. This seat is too important. I did say that already, so I can't back.
You say it. I don't remember you saying that.
I said that during the Dale interview. I was like, you know, if they polling 11th, you know,
yeah.
All right, so we're gonna let state reps like, yo, you making me all uncomfortable here. Like,
No,
I need everybody to like me.
You can say that because state rep is at the top, like the top.
Yeah, he's definitely not 10 or 11.
So it don't have nothing to do. You know what I mean? He good.
Yeah,
so
and I'm not saying who 10 and 11 is. I just know it's not the person that's in front of us right now.
I'll say who 10 and 11 is.
Don't be calling no people name out. All right, state rep Bobby DuBose. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
I'm State Representative Bobby DuBose. I'm currently the leader, the Democratic leader in the Florida House. Before I go any further in my introduction, I just wanted to say thank you to both of you. Love your platform, love what it's about. You know, too often when we get in the midst of elections and everyone's voting, and then there's always this discussion about, you know, folks don't know and we need to educate. And so I applaud you all for taking up this space and doing it. just in a fashion that's open to everyone and an opportunity to be educated, because not only are you all talking to us, but you're talking about the issues. So back to my introduction. Listen, folks, I'm just a regular guy. I'm the product of 2 teenage parents. I was the first person in my family to attend college. I graduated from the University of Florida. Go Gators. The number 6 school in the nation, which we often refer to as the Harvard of the South.
Yeah.
And I returned home to my community. And a lot of times folks will, get on me and say, Bobby, why are you always telling folks you're a proud product of the 33311? And I tell people because growing up in Broward County, everything that I heard was negative was put to that zip code. And so I want folks to know that good people and great things come out of the 33311. And so I returned to my community. I'm married to the beautiful Yvette DuBose. And Narnique, we have 2/5 kids. We have Ethan and Jacob. Jacob's 7, Ethan's 17. That space between was not my wife and I. Was the good Lord that managed that. So our blessings were spread out. We also had the honor of raising 3 amazing bonus kids, my wife's sister's kids, Malik, Michael, and Bree. Malik is a junior at Alabama A&M. Michael's in Tallahassee, and Bree graduated, I guess almost 2 years, man. The pandemic time is weird, but she graduated from that other school, Sandra. She graduated from Florida State, but we got to give it some love because my wife's a Seminole. But
divided house.
we divided on game day, but we always together every other time. But I will say this, Nanique, and she's an educator. Bree is an educator, and so just want you guys to kind of understand the dynamics of, and I think that's important. As you all said, this platform is allowing folks to get a sense of who we are. And when I returned home, I ran for city commission. My mom always told me, to whom much is given, much is required. And when I came home, I moved back into my same neighborhood I grew up in. I was born and I lived in those green apartments right off of Broward Boulevard. When you pass in Dunkin' Donuts behind Salvation Army, that's home. I live 3 blocks from there. I live right across from Walker Elementary. That's home. And granted, I do have a nice home. My friends out west used to come and say, Bobby, you got a Miramar house, a Pembroke Pines house. I said, but not that price though. And came back to my community and decided to get involved. So I ran for city commission, city of Fort Lauderdale. And my time there was about 6 years. And while I was there, of course, I served as vice mayor, but got an opportunity to really get engaged in some key issues. One of them being the 6th Strong Corridor. And, the way I like to look at it is I was blessed with the opportunity to plant the seeds there, to really put the money in for the infrastructure to help with that. And now as it blossoms and grows and, it's just 2 blocks from my house, I feel good about that because there's not only, the infrastructure, but the history there is so deep to not only just Fort Lauderdale, but Broward County. And then after that, there was a need in Tallahassee. There was an opening. And so I decided to run for state representative in 2014. Got elected. I'm actually termed out. I know there's been a lot of conversation about folks leaving seats and vacancies and so forth. But one way or the other, come August 22, Bobby DuBose wasn't going to be the state rep, whether I wanted to or not. So I just want to make that clear. And so just kind of in a nutshell, just some key things. I'm a life member at NAACP. I was the president of the NAACP Youth Council. While I was at the University of Florida, I was vice president of student government, member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I'm also a member of Mount Bethel. And I think that's primarily it. I'm Diane's boy, George and Idell's boy, and just me, just here. And thanks for having me.
Well, we love it. I'm loving everything. So I have, before we get into our legislative questions, I have some questions that you mentioned, a couple of things. Now, how do you feel, how important it is, do you think, and no discredit to anybody who's running, but how important do you feel that your background with running in the commission and being there for several years and then coming to the state, how important it is to have a foundation in order to run for this seat now?
I think, I really feel that's the lane that I can kind of drive in a solo fashion, because I do have the experience on the local level and the state level, but I want to go a little deeper than that. So being on the local level, having leadership, not only on the commission, but serving as the president of the Broward League of Cities and also sitting on the Florida League of Cities exec board, gave me a broad experience with dealing with process and dealing with people and policy and being able to pass key policy on the local level. And then when you kick it up to the state level, not only rising in leadership in the House, and I served in the Black Caucus as a treasurer and different things. But here's where I really want to make the distinction and put things out. When I arrived in Tallahassee, we were in a super minority. And when I was leaving, people asked me, Bobby, why would you go to Tallahassee? You're going to be in the super minority. You won't be able to get anything done. And so you'll just be frustrated. And I said, well, first of all, on the Fort Lauderdale Commission, I was in the super minority, being the only Black person there, but I was able to get things done. So I think, and then when I got to Tallahassee, the same thing. Tallahassee is a smaller version of DC. It's very polarized, and we have the same issues because honestly, what we dealt with, a lot of the policies that came from the Republican Party were national policies, and they adversely affect communities of color. So here was the challenge. You had to stand up for what you believe in. You had to speak truth to power, which I did, but you also still have to deliver. You also still have to get things done. And so in such a polarizing climate where we're fighting for HB1, anti-protester bill, as well as the voter suppression bill, I was still able to pass 3 key pieces of legislation. And here's where I tell you, I think that's very, very important when we look at and we talk about experience and we talk about lining up what individuals have done. I was able to pass 3, and let me explain to you what they are. One had to do in the education arena, and that had to deal with students with disabilities, our most vulnerable students. And it's a bill that was a legacy bill for 15 years trying to get out of the Florida legislature, and it has to do with restraint and seclusion. There are kids who are coming home who can't speak, who can barely communicate, are coming home with bruises. They're coming home, some with bleeding, and there have been a few fatalities. Since 2010, we have took account, and we've had over 80,000 reports of restraint and over 25,000 reports of seclusion. And so that's a bill that they're trying to pass right now in DC. The legacy is not just in Florida. I passed that legislation. The governor signed that legislation. That is something that protects our most vulnerable students here in the state of Florida. And guess what? I'm going to take that success and what I was able to do to DC, and we're going to accomplish the same thing for all students. So that's one. The other one. Let me
stop you. I have to tell you, thank you on that one, because I'm a mom of a child with a disability. My daughter's on the autism spectrum. And I remember what it's like when sometimes she would come home and I could tell something was happening in the classroom. And I was like, well, why she's repeating that? Because she's imitating and mimicking what the teacher said. So I had to have a conversation with them. But not all parents have the ability to leave work, go speak to the teacher. They may not be able to communicate. So I truly have to say thank you for passing some legislation like that, because I know I also have many friends who have children with disabilities, and as a mom with a child with a disability, that is definitely needed in the classroom.
No, you're welcome. And I remember it took me 3 years to get that done. So I don't, I'm gonna be clear, it's a lot of work to pass legislation. Some folks will tell you passing bills is overrated, and I don't believe in that. I just believe that you just really got to work. And sometimes you got to reach across the aisle and you got to work with folks, because there's a fundamental thing when it comes to issues like this. no matter what, a parent wants what's best for their child. And we want to be able to feel safe that when we send them to school. And those are things like that you got to be able to, after someone stands up and says something that just irks you to your core, turn around and work on something like this because it's important. The other piece of legislation that I passed, which is very personal to me, is the state of Florida now has a rare disease advisory council. And so for the first time, we're not the last at getting something. We're kind of in the middle. I think we're the 20th state. And so we all know that rare diseases disproportionately affect women and women of color. I lost my mom in 2009 to scleroderma. And scleroderma, my mom was misdiagnosed for like 18 years. My mom didn't really have a community. And as a caretaker, I didn't have, anyone. So what this Rare Disease Advisory Council does is sets a platform for the medical community to come in and work on this. It's also for education, and it's also something for people who are dealing with this directly or indirectly, because it affects the family around as well. And in that particular piece of legislation, the Senate sponsor, so, as legislation goes, you got to have a House sponsor, you got to have a Senate sponsor. And so the Senate sponsor, and you guys probably follow this, so I tell you the name, your eyes might get big. And if not, you go look them up, they'll get big afterwards. It was Senator Dennis Baxley. And if you know anything about Baxley, see,
we remember him.
So when the bill was brought to my attention, and they came to my office, and they knew my story, and my story with my mom. And they talked to me about the bill, and they said, leader, would you consider, filing this piece of legislation? Now, being a leader, I didn't have any intentions on filing anything because, there's 42 of us and we're in the minority. It's like herding cats, And so I said, you know what? I'll do it. And I said, well, who's the Senate sponsor? And they said, Senator Baxley. And I did like you, Nani. I just went back in the chair. And I said, but you know what? We'll do it. We'll do it. And the interesting thing is he had someone in his family that brought him, very passionate about it. And they dubbed us the unlikely pair because, I was like, that Baxley was like Mr. Stand Your Ground. And the first day of session as leader, when I gave my remarks, the last thing that I said was to my colleagues, we must be unapologetic about saying Black Lives Matter. Well, all my Republican colleagues, they was clapping at my speech, and it was part of so here I am in a place where we are polar opposites. We're fighting, and they're saying things that are hurting me. And if I said something to hurt them, I really didn't care because they were on the wrong side of history. But we found common ground, and you have to be able to do that. So now there's something in place. Unfortunately, my mother will never benefit from this Rare Disease Advisory Council, but the idea that it will prevent other individuals, other families from having to deal with that, because now we have a platform to create and to prevent and to educate. I'm super excited about it. The third piece of legislation that I'll tell you about, and this one really speaks to, and I like to explain this one because when we talk about, institutional racism, people, it's words, it sounds, it's charged, but I'm gonna tell you how simple it is, how big it is, and how embedded it is. So there's a sister that has and I say sister, a sister,
you need to clarify now.
that look like y'all, and so she came to me because she has this
pigmentation though. She has our pigmentation. She's not a.
Oh yeah.
She's not somebody that's just blacker than me. She's
just blacker than us.
Yeah, she's not somebody blacker than us. She got our.
No, he's talking serious stuff. Let's keep it serious.
She for real black.
Okay.
She like. And so she came to me because she owns this insurance company, and so her company offers a class to teach you how to be an insurance adjuster. Well, once you take the class, then you go sit for a state exam. And so that's my background. And, you know, I passed it because I started working at State Farm. They trained me to death. They do all this stuff. But it's not always that simple. Well, there's about, I think it's 7 companies in the state. If you go and pay and take their course, you're exempt from the state exam. So of those 7 companies, not one of them look like us, don't have our color. So we filed the bill, and I didn't say anything. We passed it, and the governor signed it. So anybody take it for it. But now there's a sister, and what I loved about her model is she wanted to have that waiver, and she's building curriculum to go to schools in our community and offer them to our kids, because not every kid's gonna go to college.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or maybe even trade school, you know, or and what I've seen too with a lot of our kids is that, because I mentor a lot of kids, I'll get into that a little bit later, that it's more the maturity level. Some of them kind of go, I'm done, and later on in life, you know, they say, you know what, I'm more mature, I want to do something, I want to go learn something and focus in on something. Well, what this does is they take this course, and now they have a state license to be an insurance adjuster, and the potential to start out making 6 figures. Because if you're an independent adjuster, and like if you go to Louisiana now, as bad as it is, and you work, you can make 6 figures easy. I've been an independent adjuster, and I remember at one time, I was young, and I would just work, and sometimes I would get a check in 1 week for like $20,000. So I'm telling you, this is real life. And so that's another piece of legislation that I was able to pass. And so these are very key examples. I'm not telling folks what I'm gonna do or what I hope to do. I'm telling you what I've done and how I've been successful to do that. You know, it's cute to look at the process, condemn the process, and talk about the process. But Nanique, like you said, it's not easy running for office. I don't care how many times you ran, but it's a whole different beast once you get in. And what I learned going from city commission to Tallahassee, it was an even bigger beast. So I can only imagine what DC looks like, but I do understand there are some fundamentals. So when folks tell you about their experience, you know, I say, you know, let's have a conversation. Let's lay it all out. You know, I'm telling you about real impactful stuff. I'm not talking about like task force or ad hoc committees or, you know, things we do to kick things down the line. These are things that are definitely codified now in statute, that are law that will affect folks' lives every single day. So I think that's the lane that I travel in. My colleagues who are running and those who are running, I think that's the beautiful thing about America. Everyone can run. And, you know, I don't feel like I'm running against anyone or anyone's running against me. I feel like I'm pursuing an opportunity, which I took the time to evaluate what was best for me and my family. And I tell people my process. You know, I start with the big boss, which is my wife. And look, if she said no, we wouldn't even be here. But, you know, she does. But I'm married to a PK. I'm married to a preacher's kid. So we have to pray a whole lot to even get there. And I spend time with my pastor. So for me to go through that process and to find that sense of peace, to run on such a big, I mean, this thing is all day, every day. Yeah. And it's huge. But, you know, when you feel as if you are called to make a difference in your community, and that's what I love about this platform. I'm not saying I'm the only person that feels this way in my heart, but it's hard to kind of figure out where people are at if they're giving you sound bites all the time. But if you could get a sense of a person's heart, I think that's where you start, because not one person knows everything. We're all ignorant about something. Yeah. But if your heart is your compass, then I think that's what helps the community.
Absolutely. And I have to just speak on the insurance bill that you helped pass, where, you know, once they take the class with that young lady, that they're able to be insured. And one of the things we know about, you know, especially young folks of color, is they're very entrepreneurial. You know, they're hustlers, and that's a way for them to use those skills in a way that's going to help them make some legal money and keep them out of trouble, right? You know, because I mean, one of my little cousins, he used to get his mom to buy him chips, and he would go to school and like sell them for $1, you know. So she spent $8 on a box and he done made $20. So that's one of those things that we are entrepreneurial. And with insurance, you start selling it to people that you know and you build from there. So I think that's really an awesome opportunity. Go ahead.
That thing about chips and candy, my godson, I was talking the other day. Miles is 24 now, and he started talking about when he was in school, and he get a big box. This boy would make hundreds
of dollars a week.
You talking $20?
Yes.
He would make hundreds of dollars selling candy. Yeah, it just blew my mind. He wanted me to take him to Costco. You know, you start them out with the big, you buy them a box or two, they good.
Yeah,
they're making this money, then they taking their money, and next thing you know, they're going and paying ridiculous prices for these shoes. I'm like, bro, if you hustling like that, then you do it. And I'm like, what did we do wrong? When I was in school, we were selling hot paper, you know, cinnamon toothpicks and stuff like that.
And I'm telling you, and that's a great opportunity. And I'm telling you, I hope those young folks really take advantage of it, because it's really, you gotta be in the sales and be a hustler. And we know that a lot of our young folks in our communities, just because they stay in survival mode, they get in survival mode real early, and they can really translate that skill set into something real successful. So I think that's absolutely a great thing. And then that brings me to another piece about like what, you know, everyone's not going to college for real, right? And, you know, when I went to school, we used to have typing, you know, we had like home ec, we had like, you know,
you dare yourself.
We had all of that.
As long as I don't look it, you know, I'm just saying, right?
So you remember them home roll keys? ASD.
Yes, yeah, I do. Stop dating us.
No, but so the point that I want to make is that one of the things is like, you know, a lot of these students, you know, when we were in school, we had like after school programs. We had all of these trades that you would learn. I had young men that I went to school with that came out, never went to college, but, you know, they doing better than me. And I got like way too many degrees, right? And so like, is that something that you would push? Because, you know, yes, everyone's pushing education. They want to do this free college stuff, but, you know, everyone's not going, and everybody doesn't need to go. So since one of the things that's being talked about in DC was about free college, you know, undergraduate degrees for everyone. And then like, what's your position on that? And would you also try to encourage them putting some of the trades and some of the after school programs back to school? I'm going to say one more thing to tell y'all how old I am. So, and not on purpose, but just to make this point. So I remember when I was in high school, that's when the Florida Lotto was coming out, right? And one of the things the Florida Lotto was supposed to do was to give all this money to education. And then, you know, by the time my youngest brother got to high school, like they barely had a band anymore. There was like, you know, the sports, like they had to have fundraisers to get money to get the bus to take the kids to the game. So I'm like, well wasn't the Lotto supposed to like help? It didn't. So all that to say, like when you go there, when you're talking about like, you know, what would you do about the free colleges for everyone? Because some people have different opinions about that. What are your thoughts on that? And then what would you do if you can do anything to help, you know, bring some of these trades back into high schools or middle schools even?
So I have a whole lot to say on that. So I'm gonna try to hit all the points. But I too was in school when the lottery came out, and you know that's a good example for all of us to, you know, encourage, you know, our folks when they roll out with these initiatives or things that they want us to get on board with. You know, it sounds good, and let's be clear. They did put that money to education. It just took the money that was for education already there and put it somewhere else. So we got to ask those questions. I don't think that college is for everybody, right? Anybody knows me, like one of the smartest men in my life. I mean, he taught me everything. My grandfather didn't go to college. My grandfather didn't finish high school. My grandfather came here from Jamaica, and he was cutting cane, and and listen, he's a citizen now, but he was doing the best he could. So when we talk about these immigration issues, I'm very sensitive to him, because but for him, there wouldn't be a state representative, Bobby DuBose. But I remember, and I'll use this example, when the housing bubble, it just went crazy, and I would be talking to my grandfather, and at this point, my grandfather's house is paid for, the cars are paid for. He sent some of us through college, just a regular, blue collar working guy. And, I'm talking to about my friends. They lost their job. They're losing their houses. And my grandfather, he told me, he said, you should have some of your big shot friends come over here and talk to me. And then I can give them some, some words of wisdom. And so I use them as an example, because the bulk of the people, a lot of people in my circle who didn't fare well had college degrees, had big jobs. My grandfather made it through the same way. Life didn't change. People were still coming over who needed money to come get money from him. So I say that that's not necessarily. Now, if we're going to offer free college, I think that's a good thing for those folks who would go that route. Am I for the loan forgiveness? I'm gonna be honest, yes, because I got some loans to forgive. Hey, listen, I got real excited about it. I'm just I'm not a rich guy running, I'm an everyday guy. So those things, I have to take off my elected hat and just be the guy on the street. And so when I heard that, I'm like, yes,
I'm gonna submit my paperwork too.
Yes, mine too. And I think trade school trade programs, I think educating and retraining is important. Something that I had the liberty of engaging in being a state rep was called an urban ag academy. And so there was a rep out there, and she invited us out, and we went to Iowa. And I learned so much about agriculture that's beyond out in the fields. And there's so many jobs with the universities. And so there's so many opportunities. And I was really excited about that. And that's something I really want to pursue more, because especially in the Belgrade area, I know folks are talking about, hey, let's kill the industry. And I've seen where you go in and it's always simple, but it's so hard when you bring the education piece and the industry together. And there's so many opportunities that we can create jobs within agriculture. And the problem is what I'm seeing, and then you start looking into it, the people that are on board and that are taking advantage don't look like us.
Yeah.
Don't look like us.
That's right.
We're looking at agriculture as being in the sun, being hot all day, and getting underpaid. But agriculture is taking off. And so in the state of Florida too, we have great opportunities, because we have, land grant institutions at Florida Agriculture and Mechanical University. I got family that strikes and strikes again. But the other one is the University of Florida, the Gators. Right. But, and so there are great opportunities there to retrain. So I think it's a mixed bag to kind of bring it all in. I was trying to hit everything you hit on, Sandra. And I think that's the approach we have to do. But when we do that, and we're talking about young folks, we have to make sure we put emphasis on mentorship, and not just mentorship in the sense of, I'm just going to mentor you while you're in school. I think mentorship needs to be defined, and it needs to be a longer path. I mentor each year. I'm an advisor through my fraternity, through our Kappa League. We have about 75 young men of color from 7th grade to 12th grade. And then my platform, everyone has a difference, not during COVID, but I would get a bus of them. I bring them up to the Capitol, introduce them to the process, bring different things into them. And we have a graduation rate of 100%. And not all of them go to college. Some of them go to the military. Some of them stay home. But here's where it's key. One of my mentees is 30 years old. He's married. And he has a young son. So, I'm kind of like grandpa. That's what son calls me. But I realized the importance of mentorship because in many ways, when you fill a void, it's larger than what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And the older they get, the less time you have to put into it. But I think you stay connected. It's almost like your kids or have you, like I tell people now, Jacob, he gives me life at 7 and I love him to death. But right now he doesn't need daddy as much. He's under mom. I'm learning that my 17, 21, 22-year-old need me more because they're learning about life and how to deal with things, even not only just relationships with their girlfriends, but dealing with their homeboys and, not understanding why when they don't do, my homeboy ain't talking to me no more. What's up with that? Well, that ain't your homeboy, bro. So I think that's a mixed bag of all of that. I don't think it's a one size fit all. I don't think that you have to go to college to be successful. I tell people, even though I graduated from the University of Florida and I call it the Harvard of the South, not everybody that went to Florida was real smart, in my opinion. So, and I think that's many schools. And there are people who didn't go to college that are genius in my eyes, like my grandfather.
Yep.
Yeah.
So before I ask you my question of the UBI, because we've been asking everybody that question, I just want to point out that that the reason why we wanted candidates to come here and talk, because we want them to see who you really are. And one of the things that I realized with you, because you remind me a lot about my husband, is that you mentioned your wife several times and you mentioned your children. And it's really important that I point that out, because knowing that and listening to you, I can fully feel comfortable and trust that you have a family, you know what it is, and where you were born and where you were raised, you know what it is to have, you know what it is to have not. And the fact that you said we wouldn't be even having this conversation if it wasn't for your wife means a lot to me, because that's how my husband holds me in high regard. And knowing that when you go to, and I'm claiming it, when you go to Congress and you're there, I can trust and know that when you make decisions, whether it's something that I may not understand and I may disagree, but you have my best interest. The fact that you love your family so much and you bring them up and you talk about them with such love, I can trust that you would not do something that would not be a benefit to me later on. So I just wanted to say that. So the candidates before talked about UBI, and some are for it, some are not too sure how it's going to work. But do you support this initiative? And then if you do support this initiative, do you think that it's possible when you get to Congress that's something that can come to fruition, before the next election cycle? Well, not your election cycle, but the regular one, because I know this is a special election, but in a regular term.
So when you're saying UBI, what do you mean?
The universal basic income. One of the candidates is promising $1,000 a month. Ilhan Omar is saying $1,200.
I don't want to assume.
Yeah.
So acronyms are thrown around, and I thought we were referring to that as the prosperity plan.
Yeah, and my sister went to a school called UBI. So the first time I heard it, see, I'm telling you how old I am again.
Listen,
right? So when I heard it the first time, I was like, when that school coming back? I'm telling my age. I'm telling my age.
You can tell it all you want. I don't know. I don't claim what you're saying.
So UBI, we're calling it basically. $1,000 a month. So listen. There's nothing wrong with having big ideas when you run for office. I think that's great. I think the reality of it is to be realistic. I think too many times people put promises out there that sometimes may even confuse constituents, and this is one, and it's nothing to knock the persons that's pushing it, because I've heard the rationale and I think that it makes sense. I think that, you know, you can be ambitious, but, you know, the reality of it is that there are folks who aren't quite clear. I think I did catch a part, and I think you read it and you understood it, but the average person does not.
Okay.
And that's really the heart of it. And so when you're out and some people think it's more of a gimmick. I'm just going to keep it 100. It's not anything to knock anybody. So I'm you know, and I want to put that disclaimer out there because I want to talk about it in a real way. And I don't want it to come across like it's one candidate knocking something like that. I heard rationale, and you know, she started through, and it's something, but I want to talk about it in a real reality, serving in a very toxic climate. And there are things that we cannot even get done that are, I feel that are more crucial. You know, we learned during the pandemic, you know, healthcare for all is very important, and people are dying, and we cannot get people to listen or be on the same page. Yeah. So we started talking about UVI and giving folks $1,000. You know, that's, I'm not knocking the ambition of it, but I think the reality of it, we have some things that are more crucial to our communities. I get the economic prosperity and so forth, but people are dying. People are dying because of lack of access. People are dying because of gun violence. So for me, it wouldn't be my priority. Let me put it that way. If it's something that's being worked on and it has an opportunity to move, and just based on my assessment of DC and talking to members and other folks, right now, it ain't going nowhere. But, you know, we have people that are dying. And so there are other things and that's just kind of, you know, my take on it. I don't want to knock big ideas. I think big ideas are great. I kind of live in the sense of reality. I know what it takes in this process to work things. I just explained to you the first bill that I explained to you that made sense. It's protecting some of the most vulnerable of our community. It took Florida 15 years, and DC still hasn't done it.
Right.
So for me, I'm not, you know,
we hear you.
It just would be a top priority.
You were talking about healthcare, and you know, so what are your thoughts on Medicare for all? Is that something you would support? You know,
absolutely. Listen, I watched my mother struggle. My mom, and this is going to date me, but my mom worked for Southern Bell before they became Bell South. And listen, they used to have some of the best picnics. So if y'all know anything, IBM, and you look, one of my best friends for high school, his daddy worked for IBM, and I was like, can I go to those picnics? That was back in the day. Right. But I even remember them going on strike and so forth. And my mom, you know, being part of the union and that, and it impacting us at home because she wasn't getting paid and living through all of that. But the one thing she had good benefits and so forth. But when she got ill and she no longer had those benefits and had to depend on, you know, government, I think a lot of that contributed to her not, you know, she had a rare disease, but even before they got the diagnosis of what was going on, the lack of access to healthcare, it was really at the end. My mom finally got into Cleveland Clinic and someone really knew anything about it. So it's really unfortunate, but, you know, people who don't have good insurance or healthcare are really subject to poor quality of service. And a lot of times, you know, that's why our folks die too soon. And we see that because of this pandemic. So I'm all for it. I'll fight and do whatever I can. When I got to Tallahassee in 14. We were going to expand Medicaid. We had this, it's called FIX, Florida Insurance Exchange. The House Senate, the House Dems were for it. The Governor Scott was for it at the time. Senate Dems and Senate Republicans, House Dems, and the House Republicans weren't. And one person was really against it, and his name just keeps coming up, and that was Richard Corcoran. And somehow he got the governor not to, and we didn't expand, and we leave billions of dollars on the table. So I started in Tallahassee on that fight. I still believe in it, and I'll take the same charge to DC.
Thank you. So, Joe, there's a question in the chat about the Green New Deal, right? So, there's an issue about whether or not climate change is real, right? We just saw flooding in New York, right? Can you imagine, like, there's water in the subway station, and I sorry for the loss, people who lost their lives, and, I want to make this decision. So we're real sorry for some of the loss that was live then. But then, like they had Ida, did what it did to New Orleans. I mean, there's no power. They managed to keep the dam from flooding. So that's an infrastructure question. So I'm going to ask you about that. And then, the storm went all the way through and flooded New York and New Jersey. What are your thoughts on the Green New Deal and climate change? And what's your position on the infrastructure bill that Joe Biden is trying to push forward? So that's two things.
Say that first part about the climate, you said.
About climate change. So there's some questions in the chat about what's your thought on the Green New Deal? About,
do you support the Green New Deal?
That's AOC, Omar, Bowman. They're the ones that's, pushing that type of agenda about what it is that we can, what can we do about the environment? Because a lot of the Republicans just don't believe that there's an environmental issue, right? So it's what are your thoughts on that? Do we need to do something about the environment? What would you recommend? And then the other part that I want to talk about is infrastructure. What are your thoughts on the infrastructure deal that's having a hard time making it through the Senate?
Yeah, so environment is an issue. When I served on the city commission, we saw the king tides, it would flood, sea level rise, all those things. I think it is important. I think the Green New Deal does point out a lot of important issues that we need to address. I mean, this is nothing new. We've had these issues, and a lot of times in our communities, when we talk about the environment, there's such a egregious history there. That's where you'll find a lot of your super funds and things of that nature. And, to this day, we're not 100% sure that, a lot of our folks in those communities who suffer from elements and some of the issues that they have, some of those resulting in cancer and so forth. So I think that the environmental crisis is critical, but I think when we talk about it, we need to talk about it in the context of how it has affected the Black community. And I know we're talking about climate change, but when I talk about environment, I'm talking about things that have been injected in the soil, these incinerators, these dumps. I mean, we got to talk about all of that and how it affects our community. So I think that it's important that we look at these environmental issues. I think there's a lot of stuff in the Green New Deal that could potentially get done. And then as far as the infrastructure, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's really important. I mean, I remember, I think it was in 2008 or where, I'm trying to think of the year, but when the bridge collapsed in St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota. And
I remember that. It was a little bit before that.
Yeah.
I got home and it happened the next day. I had just crossed that bridge, had just driven over. So it stood out to me, and it just kind of blew my mind. And even just dealing with the bridges that we have, they're not huge, but in Fort Lauderdale. And so the infrastructure is important. In the United States, let's just think about it. If you've traveled abroad, a lot of these countries, you can get on high-speed rail and just go all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
We're still waiting on, Brightline to take us to Orlando, so we don't have to drive anymore. So, I think we're way behind. We're supposed to be advanced nation, superpower, and all of that. So this is almost just a drop in the bucket. We are decades. We look at the traffic. I mean, even in South Florida. we're putting up, little barriers to make express lanes to move the traffic. You go to other countries, I mean, you could get from one country to the other by the time it takes me to get from here to Palm Beach.
Right.
That's true.
Right. It's true. It's true.
So I feel that it's really important. I'm glad to see the administration being as aggressive as it is. And also these are things that create jobs. And these are, good paying jobs. I got a lot of family members who do that type of work, and they provide it for their families. Heck, they're paying for grandkids to go to college. So my take on both those issues are they're important. There's a priority. And like you said, Mother Nature ain't waiting on nobody. And so the Republicans can take, that political theater and, create a narrative, but their homes aren't exempt from being flooded. And the way things are happening, it's not happening, climate change isn't just happening to Democrats.
Exactly.
It's happening to us, and it's a national issue. So, I'm very supportive of both.
And it's not discriminating on income either, right? Because just when the storm went through New Orleans, there was an island where the people had their summer homes, and those homes are in the river right now. They're like in the water. So they want to act like it's not happening, but it's happening, and it's damaging a lot of property.
And Sandra, it doesn't even have to be a storm. I mean, Fort Lauderdale's one of the older cities. Let's see, in 2011 centennial. So, we're looking at 110 years. And so when it was built, it wasn't built in the mindset of today. So you sneeze, it floods. I mean, and what it would cost to raise the level of service is astronomical. So each year, like this year, I put in appropriations for about $1 million to break, but that's just one neighborhood. And that's just to probably bring it from a 1 to a 5.
Yeah, we did have flooding a few years back, right? There was a storm. Nikki, I think you had a friend who their house was flooded. Like, was that like 2 or 3 years ago that one of the storms brought a lot of rain in a lot of the houses out east flooded? And then even in Pembroke Pines, there was some issue that they had this whole meeting about the drainage system because there was they didn't expect that much water. They really weren't ready for it, so they had to make some changes to the drainage system here. So it's definitely a big issue.
All right, so we've been putting candidates in the hot seat, right? So it's not too hot. This not too hot. I need you to answer.
Let me get a cold drink.
This ain't too hot. But someone mentioned in the comments that do you commit to not taking money from Big Sugar? Right, and that's one thing or whatever. I'm gonna let you answer it how you want to answer it. And the other thing that I want to talk about is the Texas Democrats. Okay, the Texas Democrats wanted all the smoke. They chose violence, right? By leaving the state.
They're on the right side of that issue.
I know they are, but my question is, Representative DuBose, when you get to Congress, are you going to be that? I mean, I don't think that was radical. I think that was right and it was done. But are you going to be that aggressive to make sure that when the and I don't know how it works here in Florida,
so the question for him would be like, would he sleep on the steps like Cori Bush did, right? Wait, no rent moratorium. Let me show you what it's like to sleep outside for 5 days.
I just want to know what kind of smoke you bringing, because I basically said I want all the Texas Democrats to do like a master class and just a tour around the country to show people, the other Democrats, this is what we're doing. So I want to know, after you answer that Big Sugar question, are you gonna bring that smoke? That's what.
Are you sleeping on the steps?
Are you gonna not get quorum? Are you gonna gather around? Just galvanize Democrats? Because I know you can bring all the smoke, Representative DuBose. So I want to know if you're gonna do that. That's what we're looking for.
All right. So, all right.
He's like, well, I don't know when we outside. I'm just kidding.
Hey, I ain't got no problem sleeping outside. But so the Big Sugar question. Am I taking Big Sugar? Well, right now, before Big Sugar has contributed to my campaign. I mean, and I'll put that out there. And people are like, oh,
look at you being transparent. Look at that.
For real.
No, I mean, because listen, my thing is, if any industry can, shape you don't need to be in there one way or the other, because people are contributing to campaigns. And I always explain this to people. I remember I got to Tallahassee, and there was a big issue. And, the first time I ran, I'm running and people are raising money and friends are having fundraisers and stuff like that. And you get like, here it goes. And you're just doing your thing as a candidate. You don't. So I get there and there's the issue, and there are people on opposite sides of the issue. So for example, if there is an issue that is up, let's call it issue A, and Nani, you feel a certain way about it. Sandra, you feel a certain way about it. You both say you contribute to my campaign, and you both come and talk to me about the issue. I'm going to have to make a decision based on what I'm going to be able to get up and look at myself about. You know what I mean? Like these issues, when I think about them, how are they going to affect, Ethan, Jacob, Michael, Malik, Bree, is my wife going to let me, sleep in the bed that night? Because, she gets some kind of way about these things too. And so, I don't think those things, if they are guiding people, then there's something wrong with your moral compass, because people get a campaigns. Now, in this particular case, as it relates to the Congressional, you have to ask for personal money. You got to ask for personal money. That's the difference. You got to ask people to personally give you money. So hopefully I answered the Big Sugar.
No, you was transparent. You was transparent. Now, are you gonna bring the smoke? Is that what
yes.
that's what we gonna bring the smoke? What you gonna do?
Have housing.
So listen, you bring the smoke when the smoke is needed.
Yeah.
Okay. And here's the thing that I've learned about this process. You bring the smoke when the smoke is needed, and you gotta know how much smoke to bring. And sometimes your lane might not be bringing the smoke. Sometimes your lane is guiding the smoke. And what I mean by that, even during this past session, being the leader during this, it was the worst session ever. But one of my colleagues, and I always use the example, at the end of session, one of my colleagues, Carlos Smith, he came to me and he said, "Rep, we had a good session." So I thought Carlos was being funny because we got beat down by HB1. We got beat down by SB. Not these. Let me just say, voter suppression. We probably know them by numbers by
we're
now.
familiar.
But we had all these bills. We had these trans bills against kids, just egregious stuff. And I said, "Are you being funny?" He said, "No." He said, "This was the first time he felt we held together as Democrats. We fought. We worked with our allied groups because I knew we didn't have the numbers. So how can we be effective? Well, we can get with our allied groups. We can get with League of Women Voters. We could get with the NAACP. We get with all these groups and do our part. And part of that, and Sandra, being in the legal field, you can appreciate this. We help put in the right posture by putting things on the record, on the House floor.
Yes.
And so as soon as it was filed, as soon as the governor signed it, a lawsuit was filed.
Yeah.
So I've learned that sometimes, it's not always about just throwing smoke. You can't always be the smoke. You got to be strategic in this thing to get things done. That's what people fail to realize. It ain't about he or she who yells the loudest. It's not about she or he who brings the most smoke. It's about managing your smoke and getting something done. And sometimes managing your smoke is stepping back and let somebody else come with the fire. Why, it's almost like that good cop, bad cop thing. They do it with us all the time. Sometimes we get caught up in it, but that's how I think when you talk about smoke, we all got smoke. We can all blow smoke, but how you manage your smoke, in my opinion, hey, your blowing smoke may be sleeping on the steps. All right, that might not be my
yeah, you know, see the way my back set up, like I don't know about that. Right?
Hey, I mean,
let me bring the water bottles. I'm gonna take my chances with something else.
So Sandra, your smoke ain't gonna be sleeping on the stairs.
You know, the way my back set up, man, like, you know, I don't know. Ask me to do something else. I'm for the people, but you know.
Listen, and I tell you that because when I gave my open remarks as the leader, and you know, I was talking about unity and all that stuff, people getting up, clapping, everybody clap, you go look at it. And then when the last thing I said to my colleagues about we must be unapologetic about saying Black Lives Matter, people like, oh, you ain't gonna get nothing done. You ain't gonna pass nothing. You ain't gonna. Well, that wasn't my intention, but I still filed bills. And as I explained to you, I got key legislation passed. One of my colleagues got in the elevator with me, and he was like, Leader DuBose, I like your remarks, except for that last part. And I knew this something. I said, what part was that? You're talking about that Black Lives Matter stuff. I said, man, do you not understand that Black Lives, that's what MLK was talking about. Well, I love MLK. Well, how you love MLK and you got a problem with what he was saying and now I'm saying it, you know? And so, you know, being in that capacity, again, you got to be able to know how to manage your smoke. So that's my whole take on
that was a great smoke. I'm here for it. Managing the smoke, and but because you're gonna bring it, but you're gonna manage it. That's why I like it. I like it. I guess I have one final question. And I don't know if you do have a final question, co-host. My final question is this: that with the Senate being, I guess, well, the United States Senate, not Florida Senate, being 50-50. Is it 50-50 right now? I think it is.
Well, so it's really 49 with two independents for the independent. So it's like 48 or something with two independents, and they usually vote like Democrats.
It's that funny math.
I think it's 50-48, and then the two independents vote Democratic.
Right. So 50. Okay. So
I mean, if we're gonna keep it 100, I mean, not all our Democrats are always our Democrats.
Right.
That's right.
So my question is this: we had asked one of your colleagues or opponents about the now that the Senate now has the John Lewis bill. Is that correct? I want to make sure that that's the one we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah,
one of the questions we asked was, well, when you get into office, if you get into office, what would be some of the things to do to help that bill along in the Senate? What kind of things you can do to talk to the senators and all that to get them to be on board and pass this bill? And one of the responses was, well, we're going to check to see what their what was it like? You check see what their constituents are needed or whatever. I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, so one of the answers was that, because we've received several answers. One of the answers were like, you know, when you're trying to get folks on board, you have to find out what they need and help them get that written in a bill. Like, so if there's a area that needs, you know, I don't know, some money for a school or something like that, would you say, okay, I'll help you get the money for your school if you vote my way on that particular issue? Right. Is that one of the ways that you plan on doing politics when you get to DC?
The people want to know. The people want to know.
That's negotiating and working across the aisle.
Yeah, yes. and so the DC process isn't any different from the Tallahassee process. Isn't any different from the city process. Isn't any different from the church process. Isn't any different from your home process when you're dealing with your kids. I mean, because when you start talking about politics, I guess the best way you could say it it's the whole act of compromise and negotiating and trying to get to a better place. And in doing so, there is some give and some take. And I know, you know, there was an issue when Stacey Abrams came out and you know, endorsed things, but I think you have to assess, and there's a couple things to that. One, you do need to see where people are trying to do and what they're trying to get done. Two, what type of relationship do you have? You know, a lot of it comes down to relationships too. That's something that I learned. I don't think people really talk about that, is because if I don't have a relationship with you, then I'm not sharing with you or talking to you about what I want or what my needs are. And the other thing is, some people take the approach where they feel they're going to try and bully people into something. And we all know how, when somebody come at you and they trying to bully you, even if you had a slightest, like maybe, you kind of turned off. So right. I think I would use to approach all the skill sets that I've developed by being on the city commission, being in Tallahassee, and learning the process. And it is about negotiation and about building relationships. I think the other key factor too is that we got to understand, and these are some of the things that we are doing, and what your platform is great. And it's a part of that is educating our folks to amplify the voice. See, I at least know in Tallahassee, a lot of times things get by because there's not enough smoke beyond who's in the chamber. And I tell people, one, it's about timing, and it's about, here we go with the smoke. So the little bit of gun violence reform we got was because the young folks came to Tallahassee. It happened during session, and they brought the smoke. So I would use my skills, but also amplify my district and other districts to come together. And that's how you get things done. And I'm giving you a real live example. And people don't realize the only reason why we had what we had as relates to gun violence reform was because of when MSD happened, because we were in session, and because of the smoke that came from the constituents. Because remember, we had pulse and we had more people die, but it wasn't during session. Mm-hmm. It wasn't during session. So my experience and my success that I've had is building relationships. You do have to understand the art of compromise, but you also got to get the people involved. And what you guys are doing and educating, not waiting until the next issue, but having people engage and equipping them in general is going to pay dividends. It's like planting the seeds for the future. And I tell people that's what the Republicans do. And I know it's a little off topic, but I just got to say it because it's going on at this whole mask mandate. And I tell people, look at the big picture, folks. This is an all-out attack on traditional public school. And what my colleagues, Republicans, have done is seize the moment. Mm-hmm. They have done things, they have planted things, and they keep changing policy over the years for the opportunity.
Right.
They did the parental rights bill that they're using now as a tool in this whole argument. That was before the mask mandate. In 18, they had the Hope Scholarship, the bully bill. It's interesting that now the governor's bullying our school board members to take money out of traditional public school, put in the private school, but they ain't saying nothing about that. And the reason why I say that, we got to look at this, and when we move, we got to stop playing checkers because they're playing 3D chess. And we got to start doing things in a more comprehensive manner. So I just wanted to take this, since we were kind of talking about how things work. Mm-hmm. We can't just wait and negotiate the moment. We got to start planting the seeds. And a lot of things they're doing is they're seizing the moment with a lot of these opportunities. What happened in Texas, and now the Senate president is talking about he's going to, have this abortion bill. They plant so many seeds, and when they're ready, they just pick the fruit from the tree and they come out there. So this mask thing isn't just about this moment, and it isn't just about Florida. It's happening in other states. But when you look at it, and I just use it as a prime day example, this is how they move with everything, and we got to stop reacting and start preparing by planting our own seeds. And so when the opportunity comes, they pull theirs, we pull ours. Let's go. You got your smoke, we got our smoke too.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. Right. And that getting the community involved is definitely important, because one of the things, because I know some other folks that are in office, and what they hear their colleagues say, well, like, nobody called me. Like, I don't know how to, the people never let them know how they feel. They say, I never got to complain about what I'm doing. I'm out here thinking I'm doing a good job, and they're agreeing with every, all the issues that I'm putting forward. So we do need to get folks, like, if they're not happy about something, get on the phone. So I live in a city where there was something happened in my city, and I was like not happy about it. And called the mayor's office. I'm telling you, I called and they was like, okay. And they actually fixed it. You know, most folks would have probably just like, you know, saw it, not do anything about it. And just, I was like, nope, I don't like it. Y'all need to do this. And literally, and I have to thank them that they actually took care of it the same day. So folks need to stop just seeing things that are a problem and not letting these elected officials like know what the problem is, because they're just going on about their business, going with their own agenda and not always doing the people work. Some folks go there and they really do the people work, but a lot of them don't. And when they're not doing the people work, the people need to call and let them know. And if they don't do it, then you know they shouldn't be able to keep their jobs. And that's how I see that.
Listen, Sandra, if this was a video game, you'll be getting all the coins, because that's really the difference. I'm telling you, when I was on the city commission, I would see people who would come from the aisles. I mean, these are the big houses. And they would pack the chamber because they was mad about how the palm fronds were being cut.
I'm telling you.
And so one of the things I did, because we used to have the community meetings at City Hall. I said, no, I took them out in the communities. I had them in 2 different locations and got the community engaged. And I'll never forget, one of the things that we had an issue with was extending the name of Six Trunk. And people didn't realize this. It stopped at the railroad tracks. Now, we know historically what that means.
What the tracks mean.
And these folks came out. They was mad. Now, I'm like, how are we trying to invest and bring up, and you going down a major, artery, and it's on Fairway, you don't even know that the street is there. And so the community came out in a very big way. And guess what? That's how we got things done. When I first got on the commission, one of the things we had was to get the cameras, police officers. This is way back. I'm dating myself too. And we packed the chambers. And so to your point, how do you keep our people engaged consistently and understand the strength of their power? Because and I know people think people don't get engaged. We don't hear from them. We have to go out and engage people. Part of our job as elected official, we got to be accessible. We got to talk to people. We got to be out. But the thing about it is we got to understand that a lot of our folks, they just day to day, they trying to make it. They getting up, they getting the kids out. You know, it ain't easy getting these kids out to school. You waiting in the line to drop them off and pick them up. That's 2-3 hours out of the day. And then, and then after all they get home, they cooking. People, when they get home, they sit down, they eat. They might have a beer, a glass of wine, and you say, hey, we got this community meeting at 7. And they got to get up at 5.
In the morning. So, they're in survival mode all the time.
So we got to understand that, but we got to be able to strike that balance where we tell people the importance of, say, listen, I know you're tired, Fannie Lou Hamer, sick and tired, but you got to tell them the impact that it'll have on them. So we got to continue to educate. We got to continue to engage. And say, to your point, we got to make sure that we have people out, because what happens, at least when I was on the commission, I was the only Black person there. And there are times where I'm advocating on an issue with my colleagues and trying to explain to them, and they looking at, they said, Bobby, you the only one who feel like that. No, I'm telling you, I'm not. But they got people coming in about palm trees, yelling and screaming, and we got to do something tomorrow. And so we got to convey to our people, regardless of how tired, what's going on, they got to get engaged.
They got to get out. And I have to tell you, you know what I was complaining about? They didn't put out a sign that there was going to be construction on that street. So my daughter was late to school. I was like, wait, what? I was like, no, you're supposed to, people don't know this. Like, if you're going to block the street and at a certain time, I'm supposed to know how you're doing construction and everyone's going.
Well, that's better than palm trees.
That was my complaint.
Listen, it's true. When you come out,
you need to know that they can go and
that's one of the reasons why we do our show every week, because we be like, y'all need to go ahead and email such and such, send him I think DeSantis hates me because my email is on rotation. Okay.
Well, if he hates you, you're doing good.
Exactly.
Email be on rotation. Okay, he's sick of me. I'll be sending him emails like nobody's business. So I think it's important, and say it loud for the people in the back, that the elected officials need to be more engaged with their constituents, get them to come out, be there, let them know that they're available. You know, all this talk while you're running for office is not enough. You have to be about it. So you've made it very clear, and we've seen in your record that you've done that. And so it's important that people say, so we're going to close out because we want, I know you're busy. And Mrs. DuBose, can we tell you thank you, ma'am?
She's working the room.
Is she?
She's working the room.
Listen, that's my number one cheerleader. I am her number one cheerleader. I tell people, look, and I'm gonna say it for the people in the front and in the back. I tell people all the time, I trust Black women. I love Black women. I'm married to a Black woman.
Right.
So.
Mrs. DuBose, thank you so much for allowing your husband to be here with us and take this time out. We should have had you on the show too, because you know you guys are one. So
you should. Hey, let's do that at some point. Let's do that at some point.
We thank you very much, Mrs. DuBose, and thank you so much that you are with a Black man that appreciates Black women. Then come up here and yell at us, and we appreciate that. So plugs in every 5 minutes, you know, because I you know, my feelings were a little hurt, just a little bit, but we're appreciative. It was an absolute honor and pleasure to have you on the show, and to let people see your true nature. I think it's important when people are making decisions on, you know, someone to represent them in Congress, that they see who they're dealing with. And so you did that.
This is important.
Especially this one, especially when you have the cities in your district that are very impoverished, and that I know that you would be fighting for to make sure that they get the benefits and the resources that they need. So it's important that people see that. And just by Mrs. DuBose and them children those beautiful children you mentioned, and I didn't even know you raised 3 extra babies. That made me even be like, oh, hell yes. So, because I have 5 kids, so I trust.
When you said that, I was like.
All right, so what, y'all dissing me because I got 2?
No. Hey,
wait, mine came at the same time. So I was like, yo, I was like, y'all with the 1 babies at one time. That's some nonsense. I was like, I had 2 of them, right? I'm just kidding. No, but definitely it's definitely appreciated. It's definitely appreciated.
Absolutely.
Definitely appreciated. So close us out. Tell us how people to get in touch with you, how they can donate, volunteer on your campaign, you know, and why they should vote for you.
Again, before I get into that, I want to thank you all for this platform. I love it. And hopefully it goes on for forever. And you guys continue to do this even after the elections, and put on other topics. It is so important for this space. You can, now I see it popping up. My wife is on it.
I'm telling you,
DuBoseforCongress.com.
Mrs. DuBose is on her job. You ain't
doing it.
You out here doing the thing. Thank you, Mrs. DuBose.
So DuBoseforCongress.com. Listen, folks, this is a special election. You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge why we're here. We lost a great leader. I tell people, you know, all the time, Congressman was more than, you know, a friend, a mentor, a fraternity brother. He was my modern day hero. You know, I know, but for him, you know, I wouldn't be afforded this opportunity. You know, when we fight on the floor in the House against anti-protester bills and voter suppression, you know, I was reflecting one day and I said, man, half the caucus looks like me. But when folks like Congressman Hastings was doing it, there were very few. Mm-hmm. And so we gotta acknowledge that and respect that. And so in no way am I trying to replace him. Honestly, I don't think all 11 of us collectively could, because of what he did. But I plan to grow into his shoes and uplift his legacy and continue to fight for our district. I ask for your support. I ask for your votes. I ask for your time, your talent, and your treasure. And treasure means money and donations. And you can go to DuBoseforCongress.com. Again, I appreciate both of you. And you know how I'm going to close out, Sandra. Go Gators.
Go Gators. That's right.
Very, very nice.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
People need to understand is a special election in November. I think you have up until October 4th to register to vote in order to vote in this special election. Make sure you go to the browardsoe.org to make sure that you are registered to vote. You are able to vote in this special election. Remember, it's November 2nd, and then that's the primary, and in January 11th.
Yes.
11th, yes.
Yes. Oh, look at, you know what? Mrs. DuBose is on it.
What am I missing?
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, also, can I throw in this fact too? I know we're in the month of September, but at the end of the month, absentee ballots will drop. So we will actually start voting this month.
That's right. So absolutely. So please, if you haven't done so already and haven't requested your absentee ballots, I don't know if it's too late to do that, but do that now. You have up until October 4th to register to vote. And this is a special election. And listen, once you do your special election, remember 8 months from now will be another election for that seat. So please, please, please remember, this is very, very important. Like, this is like, I mean, it's a coveted seat, but we really need the right person in this seat, right? Because District 20 really needs representation. And, you know, they're going to be redistricting soon. So it all depends on how this turns out. But we really need someone who is going to come in there and manage the smoke. Okay. and make sure
that sounds like a t-shirt.
Manage it.
Manage the smoke. You know what? You can go ahead and have it, Representative.
I'll buy one.
Take it, honey.
Hey, listen, where's the campaign person? Y'all need to go ahead and design that shirt. Put that on the page. Manage the smoke.
Okay, you need someone that's going to manage the smoke.
Need that t-shirt.
Representative DuBose surely has the experience, has been doing this for several years, and has a track record to show. So I hope that you all will humbly give him your money, send him some money. Now, you know,
not only the money, because they need the money for sure, but they also need your time. Canvassing, go ahead, spread the word, let your friends know. Phone banking,
all that. So thank you so much. We want to thank your wife. We want to thank your family for allowing you to be in this space. We want to thank you for it's not easy being a servant in your capacity, because it takes a lot, but to shoulder everything and be a leader in the house has been a lot for us, because we did watch it. Chandra and I did watch.
Yeah, we watched the conversation on HB1.
Yes, we did. We watched the session, and we saw everything, and them 13 hours, we watched it. We were in it, and we saw how difficult it was for you this time around. But we appreciate you standing up even in the face of adversity, and we thank you for your time, and we appreciate you, and I wish you nothing but luck on November 2nd.
Thank you.
Yes.
God bless.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
We chat after, so we talk. We tend to talk about everybody.
We're gonna talk about you now.
We're gonna talk about you. Don't really get nitty-gritty. You can talk about you now. But we're gonna be talking about you in a little bit. All right.
I'm gonna leave, and then I'm gonna go see what y'all talking about. But again, I do appreciate y'all. I do.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Well, what you think, girl? That was
hey, listen, I'm impressed. My Gator did not disappoint. Okay. He represented Gator Nation well, because I was just like, what you about to talk about? Don't come in with the foolishness now.
That's what I'm talking about. I liked it. I mean, I appreciate some of the things he said. Like, what really took me is when he said that he raised 3 other children.
Babies.
That was them babies were like raising baby. Oh my goodness, child. He just got my vote right then and there. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, all the mamas.
It's not easy raising them 5. But what did you think about the universal basic income question?
So no, but I understand. I agree that, because right about now it's just so many battles that we have to fight right now. Yep. And I can understand it, because that one's gonna be a long haul. And I don't. And I speak to all different types of folks. I'm even talking about people of color. They're just like, well, would you? I don't know. It was I don't know who it was that was talking about it, but I was having a conversation with someone, and most of them are like, why would we just give people $12,000 a year to do what? And it's like, well, if you start giving them that money, they're gonna find a way to like not work at all, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's how it works out, but that's how a lot of folks are talking about it. So I can see why like that wouldn't necessarily be your priority. Yes, it is something that's helpful, and we want to, we'd like to see people have it, but there's more than just like, it's people of color that's against that too, because they think it's just gonna make folks folks lazy, they're not going to work. Why are you going to give them that money? And that's not as bad as bad is the wrong word. That's not the same as the reparation question. You know, like just people who like, yeah, I'm gonna go and get reparations. Okay. You know what I mean? Like I agree, but that's a hard one. I think universal basic income is almost like trying to get reparations. You know, so I do.
Okay,
I do. I think I'm not saying it's impossible, but that's a tough one. And I think the infrastructure bill is like that. You know, of course, the voting rights bill is what we absolutely need. So all of these states don't keep this. You know, they won't have that opportunity to do the foolishness that they're doing if we have a voting rights bill that comes out of the federal government. Then they're gonna have to just adopt that, right? So that's one of the more important things. The George Floyd criminal justice reform, that's also important because you know we have 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the United States, and they probably all do it different, right? Yeah, there needs to be some level of uniformity in how that works, and there definitely needs to be some update on the training, right?
Okay,
so those things are important, and then definitely infrastructure. You know, because I've been to a lot of the countries in Europe. I've been to Japan, and I'm telling you, the United States is so far behind when it comes to technology and transportation and all of that. They're so far behind. Like, you know, when Mr. Morale was here, we were talking about how, you know, you don't have to touch anything. I was in the Czech Republic, which is the Eastern Bloc. That's the other part of Europe, right? Like they were kind of behind, you know, but you go there, you walk into the airport, you're not touching a thing. The doors are automatic. The toilets are automatic. Everything is automatic. And I think if we just had that in the United States, I don't believe we would have as many COVID cases as we have now. You don't have to touch everything. You got to come open the door. You got to turn this. You got to lock. But you go there, you're not touching anything. And that's one of the ways that you can reduce transmission. And then, you know, you also have people that are just more on board with wearing the mask, right? Like if that was a federal mandate, like, listen, everybody got to wear a mask. These governors can't like decide to kill their, you know, the residents of their state because they won't do something as simple as that. I think if we do need to move forward in terms of, you know, the infrastructure. And then I also think like some things do need to be federalized. States do have like their rights to govern how they want, but there's some things that I do think needs to be on the federal level. So it is important who we send into that space.
We do
represent us in the federal government so they can make decisions and do things that are really going to be about the people. And I have to say, so far, you know, I just like how he responded to the manage the smoke chat. I thought that was good. The other thing is, did you think that what do you think how he responded to the sugar question? You know, about like would take the money or not take the money?
Yeah.
So he basically said if both of them gave him money, he just gonna have to let his conscience be his guide. And based on what I saw, I trust his judgment. That's all I'm gonna say.
I mean, you know, I felt like
I gotta let my conscience be my guide. I trust his judgment, and I think he's gonna do what's on the side of the people.
Right. I liked how he answered the question because he didn't sugarcoat it by no pun intended. In terms of responding to that question, I think you know, one of my response was like, look at you being transparent. I think that was a transparent answer. I think that it wasn't something that he said, you know, well, you know, this, that, the other. He was really honest about it. And I trust the judgment as well, because if someone can really answer the question and say that and respond with like, listen, you know, it's like, look, it's right here. You can see it. I appreciate that, because that shows me as a candidate that if you're going to respond honestly with that, then further down, you will be honest when it comes down to holding you accountable and you being able to, you know, have a conversation with us about that. So I like that. I don't really have that much criticism, you know. I usually have some criticism for some people, but I don't have any for Representative DuBose. I don't know if it is the way that he revered his wife that made me so like, I don't got nothing to say. Likability is a big thing, right? It sure is. It really is. All it is. Like, you know, if a person is likable, it really is. That's usually always like half the battle. And sometimes that is what takes you to victory. Is it that, you know what? I like him, you know, and sometimes they like people they should like. Well, at least I think, you know, they don't even take in consideration the record. They're like, oh, I just like this person, I'm gonna vote. But then when you have a person
who has a record that they really can stand on, right? And on top of that, they have, they're likable. To me, that's a good combination of a person that that should be able to.
Other candidates did speak about their families, but you can just see the love and the endearment oozing off of him. And so that's important to me when I'm looking at a candidate. It really is, because if you can have that much love for your family and your family can have that much influence on you, your conscience, like you said, let your conscience be your guide. I think your conscience will work to your benefit, right? Because you can already see that the conscience is something that's important and that you want to do what's right by people, especially when you show how much you love your family. So that was important to me to see. As far as he answered questions that I didn't even get a chance to ask, like, some of the things for Pahokee and Belle Glade. He talked about certain things. Like, I thought that was wonderful, because that's what I was looking for when I was asking questions with the other candidates. I was looking for something that, that this person has thought about it. These are some of the things that he's going to try to implement. You know what I mean? And so that was important to me. Those cities are important to me because they're predominantly Black, and we need people to be there that's going to make sure that they are a priority. So I saw that. And I didn't even get to ask him questions about the Pahokee stuff. So somebody said there was no throwing children under the
none at all. Yes.
Yeah, there was nothing like that. Yeah,
none of that.
It was a great time. I like the fact that he was able to talk about what he's done. I think it's important that whoever gets this seat has some experience. I'm not someone who is an ageist that, somebody's younger than the other. That's not what I feel, but I feel that people should have a track record and they should have some foundation in order to run for a seat like that. Somebody else put, and the wife was Black in color, not blacker than you.
Woo. Yeah, that was
Listen, I just, it is what it is. Like,
feelings about that one, I have to say.
Well, you said one thing he said, didn't you say likability is important?
Likability. No, I was talking about when the other one said that his wife was blacker than all of us. I was like, she ain't blacker than me. So you don't know me like that to make those kind of assessments about how Black I am.
Okay, because
so yeah, but definitely, I think Bobby DuBose checked a whole bunch of boxes. He checked on almost all the boxes today. The likability factor is definitely real important, and and just the conversations that he had, about the bills that he's put forward, about children with disabilities, the one about that insurance and putting those young kids in a position where they can, become use their entrepreneurial and hustling spirit for like a good cause. Those are definitely all good things. And about what he did about the rare diseases, because that is a segment of the population that kind of get missed out in all the Medicare and all the hospitalization conversations. So those are definitely all things. And when he said bring the right amount of smoke, I definitely agree with that, because I always say fight the fight you're in, right? People usually they were like, well, no, you're supposed to be nice. No. If the people aren't being nice to you, you got to fight the fight you're in. And I think that whole idea of concept of managing the smoke is really, fighting the fight you're in. And that's all fair,
And I like the fact that he mentioned staying in his lane, right? He talked about being in a lane, that this is his lane that he's in. I think it's important because right now you see the governor in the lane of the doctors and the experts lane, rather than staying in his political lane.
No, he's in his lane. He's profiting off all that nonsense. He's profiting off all those decisions, and that's what people think he's just doing that because he's silly. He's doing that because he's gonna.
I know he's not doing it, right? I know he's doing it for a specific reason. Yeah. But I think when you start dipping and dapping in things the things that you're not versed in, because he's not versed in the science, he's not versed in the medical field, and the fact that he's using those things to his advantage is when it becomes very dangerous for us all, right?
Yeah.
So, I like the fact that he clearly mentioned that he's staying in his lane, in the lane that he is well versed in, and that he can do the best and be the most beneficial.
I also appreciate how he gave a different perspective on this whole mask mandate thing, right? He's like, really, that's really like a long-term game of like attacking public schools. And you know, like a lot of times we don't even think about it from that perspective, but he gave another, an explanation. And when you think about it, you be like, yo, that really makes sense. So just bringing that particular perspective on like why it is that the governor is disregarding what the judge say, and just kind of doing what he wants, because it's really just not about this. It's really about an attack on public.
And with him making that comment, that goes to show you the level of experience being in the House. You know what I mean? And that's important when you have that level of experience and that foresight to see long term what this really looks like, and not to be fooled by just what's going on, but just kind of be more deliberate and focus on making sure you deal with your elected officials, you reach out to people who represent you to make sure that they are, keeping watch as the governor continues to bring us down a more dark and dangerous road as he continues. There's no mincing words with that. That's exactly what's going on. So I appreciate that. Was a great interview,
that governor definitely has a different agenda.
A completely different agenda that doesn't include us.
And that's not where he ain't concerned about the children.
No, he's not. No, he's not concerned about the children. He's definitely not concerned about people of color. And he's really
poor people
that
can't get tutors and homeschool their children.
No, he's definitely not concerned about that. What he's concerned about is and that's why it's important that we are part of this political process. We need to be at the table. We need to be part of the decision making. And the only way you do that is you vote. The second way you do that is make sure you keep your elected officials accountable and you constantly reach out to them. And for those who are unable, if your elected official, as Representative DuBose mentioned, is not going out there and engaging the community, then you may want to think about who's
whether
coming.
They get to keep their job, And the other thing that's important too is how we do talk about diversity. We kind of brought that up yesterday, and then the other person was like, "No, ideology is more important about just the fact that a person's of color and all that." Right. And I agree. And I was like, and I think Rep. DuBose is a very diverse, a candidate, diverse in the sense that he's not like most of the people that are already there. Mm-hmm. I think it's important, that he's a man of color. He's the not. It wasn't clear if he was a child of immigrants or if he was second generation, American or whatever. So he has that particular experience. He didn't say he was poor, but I'm not getting the impression that he's extremely wealthy. And even if he is right now, at least he's had that range of experience, right? So he know what it is for when people uneducated got to work and make it happen. He know what it is that when you take you go to college and you get a job and then you make, get yourself in the middle class or whatever. And then, when you're doing well. So he has a well-rounded experience in like the type of people that he's really going to be sent, to DC to represent. And I think that's important, that diversity experience in career and education and family and all of that. I think all of that, makes him like a good person for the seat. But we still have two more folks we got to talk to.
Right.
Next week, we're speaking to Elvin Dowling on September the 8th at 5:00, and we're going to speak to Commissioner Dr. Barbara Sharif on Friday, September the 10th. Mm-hmm. But today, I think he, like I said, has the experience and that likability in that.
He's just well-rounded, down to earth, very approachable, and I think that's important. It's key to have that kind of skill and likability, as you mentioned, is important to have that, because people then can resonate with him, and they like, oh, okay, he represents me and he's a real cool cat. You know what I mean? Like he has it all. So, and listen, we've liked some of our interviewers.
Yeah, we like Mr. Morale too. He was fun.
Yeah, we do. We like Mr. Morale. He was funny. I liked it. And I learned a lot too. So like, I mean, you know, I don't think.
No, we like the other people. We liked all of them for different reasons.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say like the interviews. So okay.
Yeah,
so
they all different.
Some of the interviews were just a little more pleasant than others because you know some people some people came to curse us out. Other people came to like out talk us, but they came to have a conversation, and we had a really great conversation.
That's and you know what? I'm good with with what's that word I'm looking for? I'm good with you know that word escapes me right now, but I'm good with not agreeing, agree to disagree.
Disagree. I'm also okay with somebody trying to check me, but you got to come check. You got to come correct when you're trying to check me.
Well, here's my thing. People, I felt like somebody was checking me, but then all of a sudden it looked like I was like, it was personal. It wasn't personal. You just don't get to come on here and check me. You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that.
Go ahead, come to this quicksand.
Oh God! I'm just gonna it is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
They say it sounds like we're on the team to both train for the win. I don't know if we're supposed to be able to just kind of say that. You
listen, you on your platform. You ain't on nobody's Democratic platform. You can say what you want. Shoot, come on, girl. If that's what we doing, that's what we doing.
Yes, but Team DuBose came today and
they came with
provided the information.
He came with his managed smoke.
With the managed smoke, right? He explained why he's experienced for this position, what he wants to do with it. Why you should vote for him, and so go to DuBose for Congress. Is that what it is? The website?
Oh, hold on.
Congress.
I'll put it back.
Donation.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, DuBose for Congress. Go ahead and donate, and go ahead and also volunteer. They need people to call. Folks to vote for him. I have a few friends that got some phone calls, so there are people calling, but they need more folks. So I know some people that did get a call.
Yeah, and then you can go back to our other videos and read and look at the other candidates, and then their information is on there too. And you can hop over there if that's the train you want to hop on. Listen, it's all good over here. We all good in the neighborhood over here. Mm-hmm. You know
so November 2nd, 2021 is the last day you can vote. Right,
the last day.
Vote by mail. So that's the last opportunity you have to vote in the primaries is November 2nd, 2021. So we want everybody to vote before that. But if you can't, the last day you can vote is November 2nd, 2021 in the primaries. And the actual election is taking place on January 11th, 2022.
Absolutely. And remember, the law has changed for the way we vote now. So you can only bring in one family members or two family members. So
you can only have two total when you
can only have two total. So probably yours and a family members. But what I would suggest and I strongly recommend is that we do like a voting bus train safely, because we're still in these COVID streets, okay? Mm-hmm. And just, if it's your immediate family, go drop off the ballots. And listen, 2020 was just the beginning. We're not gonna let this deter us. We're going to go ahead and do it full throttle. They are scared. That's why they did this law to make it.
That's why they're trying to take our rights away.
Yeah, that's why they're trying to take our rights away. So don't be scared. Use that as your motivation. And get them ballots in. November 2nd is your last day, but prior to that, get the ballots in. All right. Yeah, October 4th is your last day to register to vote. October 4th is your last day to register to vote. All right. So get it in. We are part of the process. This is why this whole show was birthed about it. We're part of the process. We're gonna have seats at the table. So get it in where you fit in. All right.
Yeah. And we're going to keep the community engaged and let them know about these candidates.
That's right.
All right, y'all. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thank you for chilling. We do this after every candidate. We try to run through some things. So come back. Come on back next week on the 8th. For Elvin Dowling.
Reverend
Elvin Dowling, come back. And vote. I can only end with my thing. My last thing is continue to social distance whenever possible. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. If you want to get vaccinated, do that. If you don't,
wear your mask.
and if you don't, please just use precautions, because I'm not trying to advocate that vaccine on here, because I don't want people getting on me or whatever. But if you can, please do it. If you refuse to do it, but at least do your precautions, wear your mask and wash your hands and keep, social distance, and vote blue in 22.
Well, we need y'all to vote blue like in 21, like November 2nd, 2021 right now. And on January 11th, 2022. Yeah. No, you're welcome for the conversation. Thank you all. And my whole thing is always elections matter.
They do.
Elections matter. We're seeing it. Like if people didn't believe that, elections matter, and every vote counts. Because yesterday we found out that Omari won his election. What did he say, about like 13 points or something? By 13 votes. So he won his election by a small number of votes. So every vote counts. Every vote matters. Elections matter, and this is why we do this, so people can have information about the candidates and whatever else we can teach you, and teach you, expose you to, let you know about with this election process and the candidates. We're going to try to do that because it's extremely important, because these elections matter, and we're seeing that right now. Oh, do you have conversation with opposing views? Of course,
yes, we do. We sure do. Not
today, but yes, we do. Yes, we do have.
I think last time we had someone who was a Trump supporter, right?
Yes. No, we do have folks.
We had a wonderful conversation. It was wonderful.
But that's not what today was about. Today was about people learning about Bobby DuBose.
That's right.
Not about opposing views.
No. Mm-hmm. And the next two conversations will be about the other
people
two
developing their platforms.
It won't be about opposing views, but we are all open to doing that. We always have that conversation. So if you have a topic, Mr. Neptune, that you want to talk about, and you have opposing views, send us a message. You can
come talk to us with your. If you have opposing views, you should come talk to us.
You sure should. Yes. We welcome opposing views. We really do.
You know what I'm saying?
All right.
Yes, no, but Mr. Neptune, really, today's show was about people learning about Bobby DuBose. So that's what.
Oh, Mr. Neptune said we do.
Yes, absolutely. Come on. Yeah, we ready.
Anytime. We're always about having that conversation. And I think that it's important to have a conversation with opposing views. We learn from that. We grow from that. So we're all about it.
This is about the candidates right now. So yes, we will definitely do that. And probably the week, not next week, the week after that, we can do that.
We can absolutely.
So inbox us, and then we'll set some dates up, and then we'll have a conversation.
Absolutely, as long as you know what the topic's about.
Just bring it. I think I could talk about most stuff, not everything. But,
we could talk about a lot of things, but it is what it is. But anyway, Sandra, when we go back to our regularly scheduled program, I have a lot of pent-up calls.
Which would be around. It'll be probably like September 15th, I think.
Yeah, September 15th. I got a lot of pent-up caucasity that I need to release.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to Sandra's caucasity corner. There's a lot, child. We gotta talk about it. And we're also gonna talk about that Bill 11 that is being
videotape the police officers. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm, yeah. That we need to drill that in. Okay. All right, guys. We appreciate you all for hanging in tight and waiting for our commentary at the end. We will see you all next week on the 8th, right? And the 10th. All right. Okay. So until then, you guys stay safe. You guys stay protected. Okay. And be part of the process. Okay. That's all.
Good night.
Good night.